Good morning and welcome back to my channel, The Mobility Mom. I'm Rebecca, aka The Mobility Mom, and this is What Do You Want to Know Wednesday, where you ask the question and I give you the answers. If you saw episode 1, which is up right now, you'll know that I answered the question as to what exactly are my chronic illnesses, and the video is up. And the follow-up question to that, as I explained in the first episode, I was going to try to do it all in one episode, and it turned out I had to split it. So the second half of that question, when I was asked what my chronic illnesses were, was how was I diagnosed with them? And that was a sort of been a long process in the fact that from when I was diagnosed in my early teens to now, things have changed a little bit. And so I was originally diagnosed as a teenager in my late teens. I was a senior in high school. And up until that point, I had actually not been sick. I never really had cold, the flu, anything major. My mother was very shocked about that because I was her only child that didn't suffer from, different minor illnesses, or as we used to like to call it around here, schoolitis, where you'd wake up and not feel very good and not want to go to school. I, on the other hand, loved going to school. I would hit the floor every morning, ready to go out the door to catch the bus, first one at the bus stop, all of that good stuff, because I loved school. School was my sort of my escape, if that's the thing, because I loved hanging out in the library. I loved the learning process, all of that. So up until my senior year, I had been perfectly healthy. But then one morning I woke up and wasn't feeling myself, just was very lethargic, kind of achy, didn't feel very well. I got up, got out to the living room, sat down in the chair for a minute, was just really exhausted, just going from my bedroom getting dressed to the living room. Felt like I had ran an entire marathon. And I sat down in the chair, and the next thing I know, my mother was waking me up hours later going, "What's wrong?" And I kind of shook myself a little bit and said I wasn't feeling very good, but that I'd get up and go catch the bus. And my mother's like, "It's 3 o'clock in the afternoon. The bus is done, come and gone. School's over. Why didn't you go?" And I said, "I meant to." And I explained to her that I had felt really tired, and I sat down. And during this conversation, she kind of really took a look at me and went, "Oh my God, you're swollen." And I'm like, "What do you mean I'm swollen?" And she's like, "Look." And when I looked down at my feet, just in the time that I had sat in that chair and fallen asleep over that 8-hour period after sleeping all night, my ankles were like the size of grapefruits. And she noticed my whole body was swollen. I always related to being the little girl on Willy Wonka, who eats the blueberry and swells up like a blueberry. That's kind of what I did. I swelled up, except for I didn't turn blue. I just swelled up. And so she made an appointment with the local pediatrician. We went down for a late afternoon appointment, and the minute he walked in the room and looked at me, he was like, "Okay, I can tell you now that it's either her kidneys are acting up or she's suffering from preeclampsia and she's pregnant." And I kind of looked at my mother and I thought, "Oh my God, my kidneys have gone." And Mom's like, "No, we don't know that yet." She goes, so they, of course, did the blood work, the urine analysis, all of that. And as the tests were being ran, my mother, probably the only time in history a mother looks at her teenage daughter and goes, "You better pray you're pregnant." We kind of laughed about it, and I was like, I kind of knew I wasn't pregnant. And so we were, kind of laughed it off, because we're like, yeah, it's probably the only time a parent wishes their child was pregnant, because that was sort of an easy fix. But we knew in our hearts, and in our intuition told us that it was my kidneys. And so from there, I went to the local children's hospital, where they did a biopsy, and they ran even more tests, and they came back with the diagnosis of peripheral glomerular nephritis. And so we took that, and the doctors were not too hopeful. The doctor said, that there was a good chance I'd live to be about 21. But with the rate that my kidneys were deteriorating, he didn't hold out a lot of hope. And so, life went on. I said, you know what? We're going to do this. We're going to take what time we have. We're going to move forward, and we're going to go on. Well, I graduated high school, got married, went to college, and 17 turned to 18, and 18 to 19, and so on and so forth. And 21 came and went, and then 22, and then 23. And I thought, you know what? I'm in the clear. Things are stable. I'm doing this. Whatever's wrong, we're learning to live with it. Life's going on. Everything's great. And then in 95, I came home after chaperoning a field trip. And on the way home, again, started feeling lethargic. And sorry about that. The cat's trying to tear me apart back here. Started feeling lethargic, feeling nauseous and all of that. Got home from the field trip and fell asleep. Got up the next morning, still felt really, really bad. Slept on and off all day. Husband got home later that afternoon. I hadn't eaten all day. I hadn't drank anything all day, and he was a little nervous, so he loaded me up in the truck and took me to the ER, and they treated me for what they thought was food poisoning. And so, sent me home with some antibiotics, told me I had food poisoning. Go home, get rest, all that, and I'll be fine in a couple days. Well, it wasn't better in a couple days. In fact, got worse. Got to the point where I had a lot of weakness on my left side and I couldn't move and all that. And so went back to the hospital, ran some more tests, stayed a week, did everything, got feeling stronger, got feeling better, went home, finished up the round of medication. And as soon as the medicine stopped, I got weak again. Got feeling how everything came flushing back in, waves. And so I ended up back at the ER, stayed another week in the hospital, went through another round of tests, did another combination of medication, went home feeling good, was told when the medication was gone, things should be back. And of course, third time around, finished up the medication, and this time it hit hard. Not only did I have weakness and lethargic, couldn't eat, couldn't keep anything down, I became very incoherent of what was going on around me. And so my husband took me back to the ER, and within 24 hours, I had slipped into a coma. And I was on breathing tubes, feeding tubes, breathing tubes, all of that. And the doctors told my parents and my husband that to go home and plan my funeral. I wasn't coming home, that by Monday there would be nothing left to take home. And my mother and my husband and all of them looked at him like, no, she's beat the odds once, she's going to do it again. We're not planning a funeral. We're going to, think positive. She's going to tough it through. So Monday morning rolls around and I'm on my own. They take me off they come in and they decide they're going to take me off the breathing machine and turn everything off of it and see what happens. And they do it and I make it through. And I'm still there. So the doctors look at my mom and just was like, I'm going to treat her as if she was family. I'm going to do what I can with what I know and what's going on. And so they started running tests. They did spinal taps and blood work. And you name it, they did it. And after about a week and a half to 2 weeks in a coma, I woke up. And when I woke up, I woke up and the doctors came in and explained to me what was going on. And after multiple visits from 20 or 30 doctors, they finally decided that what I had was MS, multiple sclerosis. And so they began the treatment for that and started taking care of me for that. And so I was sent home with the diagnosis of multiple sclerosis on top of my kidney diagnosis. And then life went on as it is supposed to do. You know, I knew my time was limited. I knew that I had to be present in the moment and not take life for granted. And so life went on. I went on and I did the things I wanted to do and all of that. I became a mother. And then in 2003, I had another really big bout of things that happened, and I ended up back in the hospital and underwent another biopsy. And the doctors are still unsure how it happened, but somewhere between my first diagnosis in in the late 80s to the one in early 20s, the kidney disease that I had sort of mutated and became a different form of the nephritis I was originally diagnosed with. And so I still have chronic kidney disease. I'm still in stage 4. It's just a mutated version of what they originally diagnosed me with. And that's what they've been treating me for the last 17 years. So for a good 25 plus years, I've been living with chronic kidney disease. As far as my MS, when I went last year, I went through a series of tests. The doctors couldn't 100% rule out multiple sclerosis, but they weren't 100% sure that was what I had 20 or 30 years ago. So even though it's in my chart that I have MS, there is a side note that what I originally ended up in the coma with was actually some form of a brain infection. And so it's sort of, I'm diagnosed with MS with a sort of a secondary brain infection type thing. Whichever way you put that chronic illness in, I do suffer from a mobility struggle. And so that is how I was diagnosed. It started in my teens with just feeling poorly and going through massive tests to, at the age of 24, slipping into a coma and being diagnosed with MS. And now, 25, 30 years later, I'm sort of at a point in my life where things are stable. They'll never get better, but they're stable. And I just live my day with what I know I can do and what I know I'm capable of doing, and that things that I cannot do or I'm not capable of doing, I at least try. And if I can't, if I fall and fail at them, so what? At least I can say I tried them. And so that's how I was diagnosed. So thank you for joining me for episode 2 of What Do You Want to Know Wednesday. And if you have any other questions, like I said, drop them in the comment box. And I will get to them as each week goes by. And don't forget, hit the subscribe button either down here or up there, wherever, and hit the notification so you'll be notified when the next episode goes live. Till next time, have a blessed day. Bye.